Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Spa-Francorchamps for this installment of Just the Laps. Onboard footage of full sessions from our public driving experience at this legendary circuit. Let's get into it. As we pit out for our first session, a couple of quick notes. As is often the case, this was my first time at Spa. I've driven innumerable virtual laps, but this is my first time on track in a real car. The car I'm driving is a 1992 Acura NSX with close to 330,000 miles on the chassis that we shipped over from the US. If you've driven Spa in your Honda version, remember I have taller gearing, courtesy of last century US market emissions workarounds. But with some thinly disguised racing excuses out of the way, let's enjoy a little less than an hour on Spa. As we pick things up unscripted now, approaching the start of our first flyer, if you want to see more about our visit to Spa in general, as well as the track's history, you can check out our track feature video that we've published separately. I'll link to that up here in the corner. But as we pass across the start-finish line there and head down here to the La Source hairpin, we'll just kick this off answering the question that I think everybody has on their lips when you say that you've driven Spa, and that is, how crazy is the Eau Rouge Raidillon complex? And it's pretty intimidating. I would say it's almost, for the American audience, it is kind of the opposite of the Turn 12 situation at Road Atlanta, whereas there you're driving your car kind of into nothingness and hoping for the best. This is, you are throwing your car at a wall and hoping it sticks, as you hit a very significant compression, a very significant uphill, and then a very notable crest, especially as you pick up speed and start going faster. The crest of Raidillon, I think people say Eau Rouge when they think of the famous corners at Spa, but really, in my opinion, and that of some others, the sketchy one is Raidillon, because if you're going to have a big accident, it's going to be as you're cresting Raidillon, not so much going into Eau Rouge. You have gravity and compression on your side in Eau Rouge, not so much in Raidillon. I mean, not that if something broke in Eau Rouge, you'd be in trouble, but that's neither here nor there. So, having done that for our first time at some kind of speed, we'll touch on the traffic that we're going through here. As you can see, this Cayman GT4 in front of us, having just passed a couple of other vehicles there that you may not be familiar with if you're watching this from the States, as some of these we don't get over there. That's a lovely Alpine A110 in orange that we're kind of stalking up here. That's a hero only, as far as I know right now. But let's talk about the format that we're driving in here real quick. This is a public driving experience. So it's hosted by the track itself, and organizationally, if you're familiar with the track day hobby, this is less organized than a track night in America. So you'd have your regular track day format where they would vet you by experience and then bucket you in with drivers of similar experience, with perhaps some other divisions based on vehicle. So is it a race car? Is it a street car? Such and such. So public driving experience, as far as I know, the cars all had to be plated. So none of the cars out here with us were full race cars. For that, you would need to book they do have proper track days here, but this isn't that. But there was no experience grouping here. So again, regular track day like Chin or Hooked on Driving or someone like that, they're going to look at your driving resume, maybe even give you a check ride for like Porsche Club, even in the States. You do a check ride to figure out which group they're going to bucket you in. So you're driving with people of similar experience. And then SCCA Track Night in America, it's a little bit of a step down from that, where it's self-reported, which if you're honest with yourself, then you're going to end up again in probably the correct group, and that seems to work okay most of the time. This was you pick a time slot, and that was the end of the story. Whatever time slot you picked, you were in there with whoever else signed up for that time slot. So you had everything else here from people that were clearly on the pace, such as that GT4 that passed us earlier, and we'll have a couple of spicier BMWs, I think, that will overtake us at some point in one of these sessions. But then on the other end of that, you have people out here that you know, maybe that person in the gorgeous Aston Martin that we passed, you know, a moment ago, that it could be their first time on a racetrack, period. So the traffic situation was interesting, and definitely I was trying to be very cognizant of that, you know, for sure, you know, although it's my first time here, it's certainly not my first time on a track. I have literally hundreds of track days under my belt, as well as some competitive events as well. Whereas there are people out here that, you know, may not be as comfortable with proximity, we'll say, as I am. So I'm being very mindful of that when I'm overtaking, making sure that the person is driving somewhat predictably, and that's kind of kicking off my decision tree on where I'm going to maybe either anticipate or get in their mirrors to overtake, perhaps. You know, so using this as an example here. So we've got the Z4, I believe that's a Z4 coupe in front of us, that we've been slowly tracking them down, but they look like they're driving fairly predictably, and carrying more speed than I am, you know, in parts, whereas they're not in others. But generally, the line they're driving looks sensible, so I have some decent confidence that this person probably knows what they're doing. But you'll see in later sessions that was not always the case. As they even pull away from us here. Again, I couldn't remember if we were catching this person or if we just kind of ended up near them, but fun comparison at any rate. As we come around here to the Paul Freer Strait, and I'll apologize for any pronunciations on the track here, as all the corners here have names, not so much numbers, if you are familiar with watching your Formula One broadcast of this racetrack. This is the layout that we're driving, is exactly what you would see in the Belgian Grand Prix. The only difference is we are not using the F1 pits. So whereas we're gonna, as we're approaching here the chicane, normally for the F1 pits, from here we would just drive straight into the pits. But instead, where we are going to pit in for this event is the old pits, I guess, which is on the far side, or the endurance pits that they use, or that it's kind of the overflow pits now, which is on the exit to La Source. So as you come around La Source here, then you'll see the pit in there to the right. That's where we're going to pit in at the end of the session as we come down here to start another lap. So we've gone through La Source. We'll talk through a little bit of a lap here as we come down here to, again, Eau Rouge at the bottom of the hill, and then Radion, which climbs the hill. And then really, this is then, I think, the gentle turn after this is Kemmel, which leads on to the Kemmel Strait. And again, there we kind of backed off to make sure we gave everybody some wiggle room, as that person sort of indicates. So there was a mix of that going on. There was no mandate as well. I don't think I mentioned that, but again, whereas you would normally see at a proper track day, there would be some mandate issued about, you need to give a point by to facilitate a pass, or even with the Nürburgring Touristenfahren, you would see people blinking to yield out of the way. There was no mandate for that. The only rule was make your pass gentlemanly. So that's what we were working with here. Was kind of just it was Wild West. As I'm it's a little self-talk there, or perhaps implications that our brother in Christ in this Porsche should maybe look in his mirrors or something. But again, not his responsibility. My responsibility to make a clean pass, and again, experience varied wildly here. And if he's not looking in his mirror, I don't want to put myself alongside his car, because I have no confidence that this person knows what they're doing, and I don't want them to panic and collect me in some incident. So we'll see where he goes from here, and if he stays on the far side of the track. No, he stays in the middle of the track, so I can't really do anything. This is the entertainment. It's okay because our car was kind of getting oil temps were getting a little hot there, so this is why I wasn't pressing the issue. Using the opportunity to cool the car down a little bit, and we'll just wait on the straight. As you see the blue lights going off there.
My brother in Christ.
Again, trying to make sure he's like, okay, you need to see me now, but then you are faster than me, so you're going to have to do something. I can't pedal any harder. You have twice my horsepower, and then a wave of appreciation to acknowledge the good behavior. As we come in here through Blanchemont, having picked up some speed, and then checking our own mirrors, as there is, was something of concertina behind that gentleman, as we catch up to his, at least car of, lesser brethren of car up here, and this, what is that, a 997? Which again, like, I can't do anything with a 997 in a straight line. Fortunately, this guy is a little bit more aware and looks in his mirrors and lets me go by, since I had managed to catch him in a much less powerful car. Usually indicates there's a difference in driver mod. Not that I'm out here setting any lap records myself, but again, this is just wildly varied experience on a track, and that's kind of what it looks like. There are kind of joke around. There are for track driving, there are levels to this stuff, and I'm certainly not at the top of it. I'm no professional driver. I won't call myself a racing driver because I know too many of them and respect them too much to try and claim that myself. I am on the skilled end of amateur, maybe at best, just by virtue of enough seat time. As we, again, we're paying attention to our own mirrors and making sure we give the fellow in what I think, is that an M2 or an M4? I don't know. Anyway, some spicy BMW. Made sure I gave him room on the way into Lacombe, as we then come up here to what was probably my favorite section of track, because it's like Lacombe, Malmedy, and then Brussels. I was kind of in the power band more in this section, and could hang with most of the cars on track through here, because I wasn't, there's no horsepower deficit, or less of a horsepower deficit with the friendly gear ratio, or friendly gearing for me through that section, whereas I was kind of in between gears everywhere else. Which is what you'll see here, because it's like I could go up to fourth coming into Double Gauche, but it was, it felt better to, I was going to have to give it up anyway, so it felt better to just kind of run out third, brake, and then third gear was it felt correct for going through the middle of the turn. Even if I wasn't going in, my entry wasn't as hot as it probably could have been, with a little more bravery. But again, first time here, we have our car about as far from home as we could possibly have it, short of Australia or Japan. So there's also some sense of not breaking things and self-preservation involved, with how much commitment is going to be on display in this video for laps. But that kind of wraps up our first session, as I think we're going to get a checkered here soon. And then we'll pick you guys back up here once we come across the line up here for a session with a full data suite. So look forward to that in a moment. Alright, so now we're pitting out for our second session here. This will be kind of an interesting session, but we are running all of our data now. I managed to get this whole session off of the data logger with lap times and up and running. The first session, not really worth it, because we were just kind of getting up to speed, not, there's nothing nothing teachable there. One note as we do start, you'll see the brake indicator next to the throttle indicator. That brake indicator bar is an on-off switch. So it's just tied to the brake light switch right now in my car, so it is not a pressure indicator. So you might see me, you might see the brake go to maximum, like it does there, as I'm just sort of getting the pads, situated and warmed up as we're start our lap here, as other people are trying to go full F1 weaving to warm tires in front of me, which is patently ridiculous on a street car in 70-degree weather. But who am I to judge? But green means go, so we're now going to get started in earnest with this session. And we'll chat through this first lap, this kind of out lap here, and then I'll shut up and let you guys just watch a couple of flyers. Although this session will get kind of interrupted, which you'll see in a second. And we're working our way again through traffic. But point being, on the brake indicator, that's not a pressure indicator. So where you might see that light illuminate at some point where you definitely wouldn't want to be braking per se, but that may just be me brushing the pedal to set pads, or it doesn't have really knockback problems, but sort of confidence tap, or slightly adjusting the line, things like that. So if you see that illuminate, remember that's just I have some pedal applied, not all pedal applied. Should be probably apparent from the car behavior, but I did want to call that out for anybody who's actively judging my driving, which I welcome feedback, but I do want to make sure you have all the information to know that I'm not just jamming the brakes on everywhere. But yeah, so this is the beginnings of these sessions. As I stated kind of for that first session, they're always very interesting. I think people kind of figured out a little more where they were going in here. As we'll see, pay attention to the Windex blue BMW there. We'll see them again. So you remember when I mentioned earlier that Windex Blue BMW? Yeah. So somebody got, you know, hashtag you can't park there. But yeah, they got a little enthusiastic coming out of what is that? Lafon into campus, between Lafon and campus there, and I wasn't sure how they were going to handle that from an emergency procedure standpoint, but the unfortunate reality is that it meant that I guess they were apparently stuck in the gravel, or their protocol is that if somebody goes off in the gravel, they bring everybody in to clean it up. So that's what we're doing now, is we have now been slowed down by a yellow flag condition, and we'll pick this back up. So we'll cut here, and I'll pick you guys back up when we're coming out of the pits. So in real time, I will give the track full credit, because I had some concern when you stop a session, it's only like a 20 or 30 minute session. When you stop a session like that to clean up, and it's more than halfway through, the odds of it restarting are kind of slim. However, in reality, I think it only took them... We were only parked for a couple of minutes, so including the probably couple of minutes that it took us to get back to the pits for the track to be cleared, I think their total process was probably 5 minutes or less, which was awesome, because then we got to continue. And I got to turn what will end up being my quickest lap of the day here soon. But, so we've again pitted out. We got to filter through some traffic again, and then we'll get into our quick lap. But again, having kind of picked up some speed through here, we're carrying a lot more through Double Gouge. That was honestly, that was probably my, maybe, you know, originally at Radeon, I think if I worked up to it, you would end up with enough like pucker there for it to be fun. But I think really this section from probably Lacombe through, you know, Lacombe through Blanchimont, like the back side of the track, that was the fun for me. The whole track is amazing, honestly. Like, as far as laps that I've driven, as far as fun that I've had on a track, I mean, like, this track was legitimately fun to drive. Spa is way up there. I think I probably had more fun here than I've had at the Nürburgring, just because this is, you know, you're turning more than one laps, and then it's also like this versus Touristenfahren. This is less chaotic than that, and there's a little bit more, the passing is more track rules and road rules, so I don't know, I was having more fun with it, which really, that means, again, like, it is one of the best tracks in the world, and it is regarded as such for a reason. With that said, I'm going to shut up now, and this is going to be our quickest lap that we're on now. So enjoy. We'll pick it up afterwards. 305 around Spa is something that I struggled to achieve in Assetto Corsa using a bone stock NSX on the bone stock skinny tires. So, you know, with a reset button, a stock NSX with a reset button is almost as quick as my NSX in real life in traffic. So I figure I was somewhere, you know, in the realm of competency of finding my way around from a line standpoint, as we've now taken our foot off of it a little bit to let the car cool down from that push lap, leaving it in a higher gear, letting things bleed back down, the oil temperatures mainly. Small teaser, because I'm recording this without any and I'm unsupervised recording this, but we'll have some content around oil temperature at some point in the future. Probably, you know, before it gets too hot, 2026, but we'll see. checkered flags now on the lighting system as we kind of come up here and catch some traffic. And then we'll move on to what should have been the third session, but ended up with me rolling around in the parking lot, because as we started on the third session, I felt the tragically familiar sensation of a cracked rotor that I then had to change in the paddock. But I got it done. To quote the... apparently this was impressive. We a Canadian couple there was like, dude, that's so gangster. You just, show up in Spa in Belgium, from the U.S., and then change a brake rotor in the paddock so you can get back out. I'm like, well, yeah, because, I didn't go through the expense to give up track time for some, consumable. So anyway, yeah, I unfortunately burned most of the third session, and then part of the break in between to change a one rotor that had cracked, and then got back out here for the fourth session. So we're I'm being lazy with the data because this was not our fastest session. We watched that with our quickest lap that we have was in the end of session 2. I'm a little cognizant of the having just swapped rotors, so I'm taking it a little more easy on the first through the early part of the fourth session here to
I got one good session and it's
so you didn't make out what I said there. It's like it was I was bedding in, so there's a little bit of, I think there was a little bit of uneven transfer in the pad in the rotor that I put on. So I was having to kind of rebed a little bit as I'm going here, and it felt a little juddery. And as I say, if I crack another rotor and only have one good session at Spa, I'm going to cry a little bit. Fortunately, definitely had, other than the first session, had most of this session. I had all but what was interrupted of the second session, and then all of the fourth session to actually play around and experience the awesomeness that is Spa-Francorchamps. But again, like format-wise, first lap under yellow, I'm kind of using that to again get the brake situated again, and make sure that nothing that I disassembled is trying to disassemble itself again. As we then get the green flag here as we approach the campus and the Stavelot corners on the track. So this last session was a mix. I think it was very, for whatever reason, very more traffic intensive than I had experienced before. You'll see at some point in time here, or I guess it was potentially in the last session, that I've been up on myself. That 3:05 time that I put down at the end of the second session. I eat the lap after that in the second session, and then I think there's a lap in this session where I am 1 to 3 seconds, give or take. I can't tell exactly. Because the phone data logger that I have over there is the first digit is unfortunately obscured, but I was at various times between 1 and 3 seconds up on myself. I don't think it was ever more than 3 seconds up on myself at any sector of the track. But I joked around in the feature video that I feel like I could have threatened the 3-minute mark if I had had full use of all 4 sessions. I would stand on that, but for now, what I have is racing excuses and some data that points at least in the right direction of me kind of knowing where I'm going. But I think I'll leave the commentary for now and pick you guys up here for some closing thoughts and just let you guys watch and enjoy a handful more laps at Spa without having to listen to me in the process. So as we finally got the nod, or got the yield from the Cayman there, naturally that happens literally as the yellow lights illuminate, due to, or the red flags, red lights illuminate to bring us off track for an incident that you'll see momentarily. So clearing the air, yes, I was 100% being held up by that Boxster. It was fast enough in a straight line that I couldn't just power past. The driving was, the vibe I was getting from the car's attitude, as far as like where it was being placed on track and things like that, was that the driver probably wasn't the most experienced, and it was a little irregular, such that I didn't want to force the issue under braking or something like that. I did chat with them later, very politely, more just like, hey, that was fun, how you guys doing, whatever. And it was a couple of like probably older teenagers in like their somebody's dad's Porsche. So I feel vindicated in my in my trepidation at forcing any issues there with some underexperienced and underinvested participants. But anyway, super nice guys, but just not very not in tune with typical track day etiquette yet. So hopefully they continue in the hobby and get some good instruction, and get their own car so they can enjoy it and be on the same kind of in the same page as everyone else. As we come around here to La Source for the last time, and very unfortunate scenes as a couple of GT3 of various spec had decided to stop and chat about their PTS.
Super sad Panda. That's an expensive day. Yeah, they probably can just...
As I'm starting to say there, it's not going to be a quick cleanup, and this did indeed close out our day at Spa, which was, chaotic, but absolutely driving the track is a blast, and it's 100% worth it. Whatever you have to do to get over and drive Spa-Francorchamps, do it, because it is absolutely an amazing track. And so we were there in late July, which was, early July. I think we were on the 10th of July, and that seemed to be a pretty nice... We did pretty well with weather that, like, late June, early July. We had great weather the whole time we were in the Spa area, barring the last couple of days where it started to kind of drizzle, which is more typical, it seems, of the region. It's kind of the weather can be changeable in the same way as it can around the Nürburgring. They're only like 2 hours apart, so it's just a regional, tends to rain here and there. So bear that in mind when you go and visit, and we'll cover that all in the how-to later on. But for now, I thank you for watching. If you've made it this far in the video, you're an absolute legend. We got our money's worth out of what we recorded at Spa here, and being nearly an hour into this video. So if you have, I don't know, what we should play a game here. You should comment something like a turn name, your favorite turn that you're seeing on the track, or with what car you would want to go and drive Spa, maybe. So drop that down there, and otherwise, thanks for watching. I'm Richard. This is Lap of the World. We'll see you guys all in the next video, if not at the track.